I went to Dubai to prove everyone wrong.
Dubai is a fool's paradise.
Dubai is not so much a major city as it is the world's tallest Florida suburb.
Dubai is soulless.
Soulless is a word often used to describe Dubai. But what does that word even mean, soulless? When we ask Merriam-Webster, it tells us that soulless means having no soul, or no greatness, or warmth of mind, or feeling. But I didn't want to believe it. I mean, I had seen the photos, I had seen videos. How could a city that looks so freaking cool be without a soul? My name is Josh, and I'm a digital nomad who lives in a different country every single month. Join me as I search high and low to find the soul within the most famous city in the United Arab Emirates, Dubai. My strategy to find the soul of Dubai was to start outward and work my way in. Based on my past experiences, I've learned that real life often happens on the fringes, far away from the skyscrapers and the flashing lights. So what did I do? I booked a desert and culture tour. Now, this tour effectively consists of 3 parts. In part 1, they take you to a big open plot where you can ride around on ATVs. Part 2 is a desert safari, which I'll explain. And part 3 was a cultural meal and festival. When I booked this tour, I was admittedly on the fence about the first 2 parts, but I had a lot of hope for part 3. I figured that culture and soul are connected, and that this show might just be where I find the heart of Dubai. In reality, things were a bit different. Part 1 of this tour was just a bust for me because they wanted us to pay a lot of extra money to just ride around in circles on these ATVs. I didn't want to do that. It was all just set up in a closed off area, and it kind of reminded me of very expensive adult go-karts. Clearly, nothing about this is culturally relevant, so we'll move on to the next. Part 2 was a desert safari. Now, in my experience, the word safari usually relates to seeing wild animals, right? So when there were exactly 0 animals involved in this, I was a bit confused. As it turns out, in the Middle East, a desert safari is really just about riding up and down the dunes really fast in a stark white SUV. Now, okay, I can't lie. This was fun AF. Truly, I mean, this felt like being on a roller coaster. And also, it was actually really fun for me to watch how much fun my driver was having. I mean, he lives for this. He was just having a blast. But honestly, who wouldn't? He's getting paid to just carve up some dunes like a badass. Insane. In the middle of the safari, we stopped to do some sandboarding, which is always fun. I skipped out on this because my elbow was busted up from a holiday roller skating accident. Yeah, that's a story for another day. But it was fine because I had done this once before in the deserts of Peru. Here's some footage from that day so that I don't start to foster a reputation as a sandboarding coward. But then, it was finally time. The reason I booked this tour in the first place, the cultural element. We arrived at a place called Hello Desert, or I Love Desert. I'm actually not entirely sure what the name is. This was ultimately dinner and a show. All in all, this was pretty cool. I mean, it started with some camels and flashing lights, which was actually pretty impressive, but the main show consisted of 3 different performances, which was definitely more than I was expecting. There was a belly dancing segment, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, some belly dancing by a couple of very talented performers. Secondly, there was a performance that reminded me a bit of the whirling dervishes that I had seen in Turkey. These men who twirl and twirl in their cool and illuminated attire. They are also very talented. Personally, I would have fallen over dizzy and puking in 30 seconds flat. And lastly, there was a fire breathing performance. I love a good fire-based activity. These types of performances always make me want to just run away and join a circus. Like, I don't really know what I would do in the circus, but like, I do crave the life of a court jester, I think. This was all really cool. I enjoyed myself. I loved the shows. I had a great time on the desert safari. All in all, it was a good day. But I definitely didn't walk away feeling like I had some culturally significant adventure. In fact, quite the opposite. It felt like the whole thing was a day at Disney. There were rides, and there was a line for food, and then some fireworks and a show. Fun, but not that deep. This was not the soul of Dubai I was looking for. So, the next day, I decided to see what the city itself had to offer, but not the popular buildings and hotels, the parts that most visitors skip. The next day, I was more determined than ever. I did a bit of research and found that there is a part of the city with a good bit of history and culture, and it's called Souk al Seef. Bingo. I hopped onto Dubai's very impressive metro system all the way across town, from where I was staying at the Dubai Marina over to the end of the line near the airport. I made it to Souk Seef, and as I started to walk around, things were looking pretty good. It felt like one of the souks you might see in a place like Morocco or Egypt. At least, it felt that way at first. Everything changed when I saw this McDonald's, also Chipotle and Starbucks. Now, what got me wasn't the fact that they were simply there. In plenty of historical spaces around the world, popular brands have swooped in and bought up the real estate. No, it was the fact that their signage was intentionally made to look old and worn out. That made me stop and go, huh. Why are they doing that? Is any of this real? So I pulled out my phone and did some research, and my inkling was correct. Souk Seef was newly constructed and opened up as recently as 2017. This place was fully created for the sake of tourism and actually has no historical value whatsoever. Well, not none. It is effectively attached to a portion of Dubai that is historically significant, known as the Al Vahidi historical neighborhood. But given that the streets there are a bit more narrow and there isn't as much storefront space, I guess they felt they needed to expand it for the sake of tourism. Souk Seef specifically feels like Epcot at Disney World in Florida. The idea of Dubai, but ultimately just a movie set. This is absolutely not the Seoul that I was looking for. Thankfully, after walking a bit farther away from Souk Seef, I did find some genuine culture in the area. The first was at a restaurant called the Arabian Tea House. Now, like much of Dubai, this is still marketed toward tourists. However, they serve really great local food options and drinks in a really lovely atmosphere. Very tea house aesthetic. Bright colors, wicker furniture, it's cute. I ordered the Tata Laham, which is one of their specialties, and is basically shredded lamb with rice, onions, and some yogurt on the side. This was delicious. I'm not usually a huge fan of dishes that are predominantly meat and rice, but the spices here were really incredible. Things were looking up now. The Arabian Tea House has heart. Built for tourists, yes, but it has heart. We were onto something. I walked from there over to the old souk area, and after perusing some souvenirs, I hopped onto something that was pretty dang cool. This historical boat here is called an ABRA, and for just one single dirham, or about 25 cents in the US, you can travel across the Dubai Creek. It's one of the oldest forms of public transportation in all of Dubai, and it's actually super fun. It was all very picturesque. I mean, the birds were all flying around majestically. They must have known that I was filming. Incredible work, bird friends. You look stunning. The ride itself is fairly short, and I got off at the entrance to Old Baladaiva Street, which is effectively where Dubai's famous gold souk begins. It's called the Gold Souk pretty simply because they sell gold there. Yep, super straightforward. If you're not in the market for gold, there are other souvenir shops as well, but generally speaking, they sort of have a thing, and that thing is gold. If that's not immediately apparent, they let you know by displaying the actual heaviest gold ring in the entire world right in a shop window. I like to imagine that it's actually a toe ring for a very wealthy giant. I wandered around for a bit before ultimately buying myself some camel's milk ice cream, taking a seat, and reflecting on the day. All in all, this was another good day. I mean, I had a great time, and I really feel like with some work, I was able to dig up some history and culture, even in a city like Dubai. That said, is it enough to give the entire city a soul? Can this tiny neighborhood and a few local boats redeem a city that is otherwise massive and filled with glitzy buildings and hotels and shopping malls and convention centers? No, I don't think so. It's not enough. If you are basing your determination on whether or not Dubai has soul on its historical and cultural offerings, it might be lacking, especially compared to a place like Abu Dhabi. But then I got to thinking more about those places I kept passing by. The places that originally sparked my interest in Dubai from the photos and videos I saw of the city. Yeah, those same glitzy buildings I just mentioned. And it was there that I sort of had a major realization about the soul of Dubai. It was almost sunset, and I decided to make my way to a place that may be the exact opposite of the Gold Souk, the tallest building in the entire world, Dubai's famous Burj Khalifa. Down in front of the building, every night around sunset, they have a huge water show. I navigated my way there just in time and grabbed a spot against the rail. And you know what? It was absolutely stunning. The sunset was incredible and the water show was brilliant. For the first time since I had been in Dubai, my breath was taken away. It was absolutely gorgeous, and as I stood there tearing up at the beauty of modern architecture against the backdrop of a stunning sunset, I knew in that moment that I did it all wrong. I came to Dubai looking for its soul, but I spent most of the trip avoiding it entirely. Soul can look like a lot of things. Usually we think of it as culture, food, history, but it doesn't have to look like that. Soul can also be art, it's design, it's structure, it's the human desire to choose beauty when simple function would suffice. The Burj Khalifa, for example, is a stunning piece of architecture. It's functionally the tallest building in the world, but it also is a carefully crafted and designed masterwork of art and physics. And like any great masterpiece, thousands of people gather around every single day just to take it in. The Dubai Marina is a place designed for people to live. It could have been any old apartment complex, but it's been created to be stunning. It's waterfront and social all at once. And I mean, the Burj Al Arab, marketed as the world's only 7-star hotel? Don't even get me started. This place was introduced to me as a teenager by Owl City on the cover of a CD. It is a building that is so beautiful both inside and out that it speaks to musicians as a representative image of their music. Simply put, I ultimately learned that Dubai does, in fact, have a soul, but it's not in the way you're expecting. If you go there looking for it in the history and the culture like I did, admittedly, you won't find much of it. Choosing to do that is like going to Walmart to buy a sports car. You'll never find what you're looking for. Dubai is built different, literally. The city itself is a piece of art against a vast desert canvas. And before you call it soulless, ask yourself, what's more human than choosing to create, against all odds, something beautiful that people fly from all over the world to see?